yesterday's talk was that Vedanta does talk about oneness, and oneness means there are different forms, but when you look into the reality of the forms, they all collapse as forms within forms within forms within forms. And for example, the question is, what is the final building block of all the forms? So you don't need Vedanta to come till atoms and particles. That quantum physics does that job, right? So you don't need to show somebody that the forms are relative a human body, when you think about it, it's nothing but organs. Organs are nothing but cells. Cells are nothing but atoms. Atoms are nothing but particles. This is something that our rishis told long, long ago. And they said world of forms is mithya. And mithya means it has a dependent reality. What you see is not exactly the final truth. It is the forms are collapsible into something else. So quantum physics can take you till atoms and particles. So what is the value for Vedanta? So Vedanta takes you one step further. And what Vedanta shows is that atoms and particles themselves are just so small, and they themselves can be further divided, and there is no end. When you look at the forms, there is no end. It goes on being further divided. So the building block of everything is not a form, because every form after a point reduces to a concept where there is nothing tangible that you can say. The whole of quantum physics after a point, it's all mathematical. There is nothing concrete that somebody can see. So what Vedanta shows is that if you think that any given form is the final truth, it's not true, because it's further reducible. So then what is the truth? The truth is that existence which is in the form of awareness, which is limitless. That is the truth of every form. Where do I find this existence and awareness? Sat and Chit. Where is it?
Everywhere.
It is you. So that means, what is the mistake that we make? We think of ourselves as a form. But a form is reducible. But then there is one reality which is not reducible, in whose presence the forms get reduced infinitely. And that reality is you right now. You are Sat and Chit. Right now. That's why I love, somebody said, it's not something out there. There is no some abstract reality. Vedanta is not abstract. It is actually looking into the form and finding the truth. The truth is not abstract. The truth is not away. The truth is where the forms are. And that truth is you always. And not only one form, but every form is collapsible into that truth. Imagine, if you think you're a form, you're one of trillion. But if you're the truth, and if every form collapses into that truth, you become the source. And it is so uncontradictable, because it is totally, we don't shy away from science, because science and its discoveries actually substantiate what Vedanta talks about. So there is a lot of convergence, but at the same time we add value to science. So therefore it becomes extremely powerful. It is uncontradictable. So just, over the years, I have taught a lot. And, sometimes it's surprising who ends up in my retreat. So I did a recent retreat in India where a neurologist, he came to my retreat with hundreds of questions and hundreds of very strong scientific beliefs, which is all based on his years of research, right? It's not like these are his impressions and he's just thinking about it up in the air. Not at all. And every class he was questioning me, and every class he was asking me things which were very technical things. Obviously I would not know, as the neurologist will know, but conceptual things he was asking me. And every time I was answering, he says, "Thank God you gave this answer, because if you had not given this answer, I could prove you wrong logically." This was so fun for me. So yesterday I was talking to Christina during the break, and she was telling me, what are your new projects, right? So I said, well, I don't know if I have any new projects, but one thing is, when now, it's so lovely to hear all these wonderful things about me and the teaching and how it has changed your life. But what is really interesting for me in my own journey, right, is to meet people who are real experts in any given field, and then they question me, and my ability to engage with them and to convince them, it gives me another level of satisfaction, right? Because now I'm not talking to some spiritual person, I'm talking to a medical doctor with 20 years of research. And he is questioning me, and he says at the end that he has learned so much from me at the end of 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and still you don't prove him wrong.
No,
this is the good thing.
no,
it's not a
I
fight.
I don't fight with him.
Yeah.
He asks me questions, and how does that? Because he himself, his knowledge takes him till here, and I allow him to make that jump, but he's also very logical, so he will not make that jump until it is logically sound.
This is so, I like this intellectual discourses so much, because it's so amazing that humans, it exists within this reality, and they are able to go this way, this searching, this to prove, and to really serious looking what is true and what is not true. And to have a teacher, you can really, without someone who wants to convince me and tell me something spiritual, esoteric stories, I don't like this, but to go really in a real discussion to make an improvement, so we're really interested in find out something. And this is so great. In Vedanta, you can do this.
You can do this.
Yeah.
And it is just, these kind of experiences enrich me so much, really. They enrich me a lot. And I don't, one thing which I have always been very careful about is not to present myself as some realized person. I don't have such pressures. To put myself as, I'm realized and I'm going to enlighten you. I don't have these I don't interact with people with that. I see that I have this incredible, I myself have benefited tremendously from this incredibly powerful and sophisticated learning, and I'm more than happy to share it with everybody. And I'm growing in my own ways of, how to communicate, how to engage people, how to make it a little bit more creative every time and not just go on repeating the same thing. And, I'm really interested when you ask me questions and, find an interesting way to answer. So, as much as it is interesting for you all, every class gives me a great joy. It gives me a great joy because I'm not speaking from a pedestal of a wise person. I'm speaking and I'm communicating and I'm as much learning and I'm as much interested in what you have to say than what I'm saying. You see? And I think that exchange fulfills us so much. And thank you all for being in our life. You give meaning to our life. So, and your participation and your enthusiasm. So, what is interesting is, so that reality that Vedanta says is a super sophisticated reality. But then, what is the flip side of that? That it can become super intellectual and it can lose touch with the day-to-day thing. But what the two were saying is that Vedanta is multidimensional. That is the beauty of Vedanta. It has a very sophisticated logical side, but it is at the same time very human. So a scientist may not be able to talk about emotions, and he may not be able to, he or she, dharma. These are not the things that somebody who is highly technical will be able to talk about, but we are able to talk about it. So that means that is complete. It completes the need for a human brain in the way you understand life. And that completion gives a lot of satisfaction. So this is why in the journey of Vedanta, as I said, even though it is highly refined body of knowledge, which is thinking very fundamentally about the world, we cannot ignore the other side of Vedanta, which is dealing with the forms. And that was my topic yesterday. So the dealing with the forms, how you cannot deny. So yesterday what we did is, if you very early in your pursuit go to the final truth which is universal, which is free from everything, and if you deny your individuality, and Vedanta for you at a very early stages starts with I'm not body, I'm not the mind, it has a problem. And what is the problem of disconnecting? And disconnecting means what? One needs to refine oneself in terms of one's following dharma. We saw two sides, and emotions. Who works on dharma and emotions is not the final reality. Who works on dharma and emotions is the individual. Do you understand? Yeah. And in that, what we do need to do is just revision, just very quick revision. When we talk about dharma, generally our starting in everything, our starting point is wrong. And then we build on the wrong starting point and then we get lost. So for most of us, the starting point of dharma is, there are some people who are dharmic, ethical, and others are unethical. These are good guys and these are bad guys. This is how almost everybody understands dharma. Right? And then what? Obviously, which side are you? We all like to think we are on the ethical side. And what do we do? Complain about those unethical people who are creating troubles in the world. All the time, our whole thing is, there are these bad guys. Either they are governments, or they are this group of people, or it is somebody in your family, or somebody at your work, or somebody out there is problem. And so much of our time and energy gets spent in seeing this dark and what convincing ourselves that I'm this right person and I'm fighting it. But this starting point itself is a faulty starting point. That it's not that there are ethical people and then they are all good people, and then there are unethical and they always do bad. Yesterday, what we saw is that the world is highly nuanced. And nuance means this whole structure is faulty. And what it means is good human beings can make a mistake in making a call. And they can make a bad decision. Right? And they can make a bad decision. That doesn't make them bad. And why do they make bad decisions? For many reasons. Either you are just totally self-absorbed and you are, only thinking about your interest. But then there are people who make wrong decisions because of the idea of loyalty. And that loyalty is carried too far. Or they make an idea because of some rules, and following those rules becomes so important for them that they don't see the totality. Right? Or some of them are emotionally so connected to some people that they lose their whole idea of what is the right response.
And who is there to judge whether it's a good or bad decision?
So this is why we are not judging. So what we are doing is, look at this. What the whole point of Vedanta is that we have little legal system which kind of does that little job of little assessing. But here we are talking, according to Vedanta, we are talking about the laws. So what we talk about in Vedanta is, just as there are biological laws, chemical laws, there are physical laws, there is a long dharma. Long dharma, because the whole universe, as I will talk about it a little bit later, is not made up of matter, which is dumb. The universe is made up of one intelligence which manifests as all the forms, and it organizes the universe through a series of laws. So what it means is, whether you recognize, look at this, whether you recognize gravity or not, gravity works. Right? Similarly, there is what we call law of dharma. And because there is a law of dharma, how do we know, as I started yesterday, that we all are given, it's not that it is taught by somebody, we all are given the basic common sense understanding of dharma. All of us. And it's without any external intervention. But even though we are given this sense of dharma, what happens is, it's not always easy to follow dharma, because so many other things get mixed up in our understanding. So therefore, even good people, you get overly connected to your emotions, you get overly connected to your idea of loyalty, to the rules, and then you miss doing the right thing. So what is the whole journey of a human being? The journey of a human being is to align to the laws of dharma. Why? Because dharma and karma are connected. What it means is that the universe comes with giving you the possibility of using your free will. You're given a common sense understanding. Then you are given a free will to decide what you want to do in this given situation. And the universe also has the consequence connected to it. So what it means is, along with dharma comes the consequences, which is what we call karma. So that means it's not any human being who decides, it is the nature. Nature, we have a word which is called Ishvara. So what we do need to, as a human being, in our journey towards the final truth, right? Because what is the final truth? Your mind needs to see the truth and not superimpose something else on it. That is our journey. But before we see the final truth, in the world of forms, we need to be able to decipher things more accurately without getting confused. That is our journey. Do you understand? Because then you're getting ready. You're getting ready for that, so that the mind is able to cut through all the distortions and able to see the truth. And I think this is what Sabina was expressing yesterday. That what you were trying to express yesterday. That, you know, when a situation presents itself in front of us, the way we think about it, we don't realize, but so many things interfere. Your idea of loyalty interferes, your idea of rule interferes, your idea of so many things interfere. But to be able to cut through it and then to have that clarity, but clarity not to justify what you are doing, but to align to the laws. This is incredibly powerful. And not to get lost in our own created world of all confusions and emotions, and which makes everything so unclear.
But how do we find out then what the
So this is the growth. This is why you come to the class here. The thing is, look at this. It happens, but who actually explicitly told you that this happens? See, we don't think about it because our whole starting point is like this and we keep building on it, but nobody makes you see the world in its true light. So, as you expose your mind to a knowledge like this, which is non-linear, what we call putting in boxes, your mind becomes a lot more sophisticated. It becomes much more apt. It's able to deal with complexities because there is a teaching out there, and to which you expose your mind for a long time, and there's a training there. So,
and I don't think it is. My impression is to learn this, to be on this way, to find out what is the right thing, and to get the reaction that feels right. This is not a great thing. This is, in my impression, within small things, everyday things. It's not necessary to take big decisions.
Yes.
What should I study? Not should I leave this person or not? These are the very small things in everyday life. Yes, it's my impression.
Yeah.
I can you can to get the feedback.
yeah.
Is this right or wrong? Or this is, do I have, is it a mistake? Can I learn from this? Is this a new, okay, it was wrong, but I have made experience, and next time I know better. And this is so wonderful. The older you get, you have more experiences.
Yeah.
And these are the small things.
Small things, yeah. So, what are I think, Christina, the question that you are asking, and that's what I'm hearing, what are the indicators that I'm actually moving towards doing this job, right? The universe has to give me some feedback, right? Whether I'm moving in the right direction or I'm off in my own world of God knows what. So the universe gives you, a feedback. So what it means is, if you are, look at this. If you had created this world, this vision of the world, are you going to be happy? Because you are this, you think of yourself as this self-righteous, very good human being, and everybody else out there is problematic. How is the inner world of a person who actually believes like this?
I don't know.
Can you be happy? Can you be light?
No, because you're surrounded by
Yeah, you're surrounded by all these dark people.
Yeah.
Do you understand this? So
it's not fun.
it's not fun. Do you understand that when you're thinking, please understand, when your thinking matches the reality, life becomes much easier. Because you're not caught in darkness. You're not caught in this whole self-created world, which is not in keeping with what the truth is, and your mind is maladapted to moving with ease in complex situations. So what is an indicator, right? This is what we will see in the 10th chapter. The 10th chapter is the wise person. How does a wise person behave in this world, right? So the more you are able to see the realities as they are, as a result of making that effort, how does your life change, right? So you become much lighter. You are not trying to project a so-called equanimity where you feel that you have to show to the world that nothing affects you. You're much more human. You're much more able to, honor your emotions and acknowledge them, and just to make sure that they don't reach this unhealthy tipping point. And even if it does reach unhealthy tipping point, you are able to recognize and bring it back. There are no dramas. Do you understand? It's not trying to be hard on yourself and hard on others and project yourself, and then all these pressures fall away. And the mind becomes a lot more able to figure things out, because it's not caught in one paradigm or the other. Loyalty paradigm or rule paradigm or emotional pressure paradigm. It's able to navigate all of this. So that means the first thing, this is Vedanta, the first thing is, if you want to reach the final truth, you need to be able to deal with the forms with ease. Because that's a clear mind. A clear mind is able to cut out all the false complexities and go to the essential things, and is able to see. Now that is what we call karma yoga. That karma yoga means it doesn't get acquired overnight, but it is a practice of a long time. But before you can practice, you need to understand where that we are stuck. Our frameworks themselves are faulty. So you need to understand how a human being, a good human being, can get stuck in a wrong framework and may think that I'm doing the right thing, but is misguided. When you hear these stories, when you hear this analysis, the mind hears it, and the mind is able to apply these ideas to your own life. This is as a result of reflection. So what does the teaching do? The teaching opens up the whole discussion, but in a non-linear way.
So that means basically I have to surrender control. In
So,
a sense.
See, you have, absolutely, you have to surrender control, because you don't control things. You are living in the universe which has its own laws, and more you understand those laws and you align to it, more and more life opens
Because
up.
if I live in this good and bad guy world, then I think, I do good things supposedly, and I earn my brownie points, and then the universe doesn't reward me.
Excellent.
And then I'm pissed off, and I say, life is bad.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Do you understand? You start with a wrong starting point where your mind will take you, right? And each point is logical, right? I'm doing the right thing. Others are wrong, but I'm not getting what I want. So what's my next conclusion?
Unfair.
The world is unfair.
Yeah.
The world doesn't compensate, the good people, but the bad people get away. So what then happens is, the world is one way, but your thinking takes you further and further away from realities. And Christina, what Vedanta says is, if your mind in the world of forms is operating from its own created realities, it's not able to see the realities, that kind of a mind is not ready for the final truth. Because it's not able to recognize simple things, right? How will it recognize the final truth? So what is the journey? The journey is within the world of forms. Make your mind sophisticated. And then, right, in those complexities, your mind has to not work from its own created frameworks, but to see the world more accurately. As it sees the world more accurately, it becomes much more able to do the right thing without getting all loaded. As it is able to do it, right, it gets relative freedom, and relative freedom paves the way for the final freedom. This is the journey. So, as I told you, this framework itself is wrong. So instead of building on this framework, we break this and we create a new framework. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
That's why it's powerful. It's changing our whole conceptual way of looking at the world of forms. Right? Similarly, in our emotional life, our normal framework is these are desirable emotions and these are undesirable emotions. So we work within this framework and everything becomes messy. We have to break this framework. That's why Vedanta is so conceptual. Because if you go on doing this, you will end up in a situation that nobody wants to be stuck with something which is undesirable. So what will then happen is suppression and denial becomes very normal. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then also, you can't do it for a long time, then there is explosion. And then your whole life becomes like, look at this. If in Vedanta you tell yourself, I need to completely free myself from undesirable emotions, and I only have to have desirable emotions to make myself ready for the knowledge. When will you have it?
Unrealistic.
Unrealistic. Do you understand how? This is why my job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to make you think. Think deeply. And all these superficial frameworks that we all have in every area, they need to be broken. And your mind has to become far more refined to capture the realities and to work with those realities. So what is the new understanding? Every emotion is part of the brain. You can't avoid it. And it is here for a reason. It's not a bad thing. Now, what am I trying to do now? Get every emotion to express itself within its healthy range, and to make sure that it doesn't reach a tipping point where it becomes distorted.
That's all.
I'm not fighting. I'm not fighting the universe. I'm not fighting the things. I'm moving with it, with intelligence, with tact, with brilliant navigation, and I enjoy the journey.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
When you're done, we need
Yeah.
to have a
Break.
pause
Yes.
to
Not
place the order.
Yes. Just for this. Yeah. So I just wanted to make you understand what I talked about yesterday. I didn't give you a lecture on dharma you have to follow and emotions you have to take. I made you see that the starting frameworks themselves are wrong. That's a huge expansion, hopefully, for people who think.
But isn't there a more even general question about emotions regarding how much you are willing to let emotions rule what you do?
Yeah.
How much control are you giving them?
Yeah, so that also, I think we need to a little bit more be sophisticated, because for a long time we thought that cognitive thinking is the thing and emotions are only interference. And for a long time we thought that okay, emotions have to be managed so that they don't interfere in your cognitive thinking. But now there is a whole new way of looking at it, which is what we call emotional intelligence. So what it means is, if a situation requires an emotional response and I am only responding to it cognitively, then I am off. Just one example and then we'll take a break, right? I'm a Vedanta teacher, and in the class I teach, right, that giving a body is like changing the clothes. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, right? So I teach that one body gets old, then you take another body, and this journey goes on, right? This is what is written in the Gita. But when somebody comes and says, I lost somebody very dear to me, and I'm in pain, can I quote this verse of the Gita? Then I'm removing myself from that person. That person doesn't need to hear the final reality about how we travel. That person needs certain empathy. That ability to decide what is required in any given situation and to be able to respond at that level is wisdom. Otherwise you are disconnected. Again you are connected only to cognitive world and emotions have become an interference. But that is not true. Our starting frameworks are problematic. So that means there is so much unlearning to do before we even embark on our growth journey. So this is me as a teacher, right? So this is when I see my value added, because I think we have all repeated things again and again and again, which themselves are faulty. And we need to be a little bit more nuanced and look into it and start with a much more realistic framework which will allow us to grow and flourish and to really enjoy, right? And live with freedom in true sense. So, okay, good time for a break. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.